I've always believed that life would never be perfect, but I never imagined that the people I love the most could make me face such a terrible shock. One morning, while taking care of my son, I discovered a strange message on my husband's phone. The words hit me like a knife, and I knew my whole world was about to collapse. How did they deceive me? And what will I do with this betrayal? I had always thought that my life would never be perfect, but it would always be okay. I had a loving family, a wonderful husband, and beautiful children. I thought everything would just continue like that forever. My husband and I have been together since I was 19, and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years, and now we have 2 young children. Though life sometimes had its small challenges, to me, it was still a happy family. However, my life completely changed 2 years ago when I received the bad news about my dad. He was the only parent I had left. My mother passed away when I was just 12, leaving a hole in my life that no one could fill. My dad has always been my rock, the person I could turn to for comfort and support. He has a loud, contagious laugh and big bear hugs that made everything feel right again. When I learned that my dad had stage 3 colon cancer, it felt like the world was crashing down around me. He was everything to me. The news hit me like a bucket of cold water and I couldn't breathe, but we decided to fight the disease together. We explored every treatment option, hoping that somehow he could live longer. We all held on to hope, prayed each day for a miracle. Despite everything, after a year of battling the illness, we learned that the treatments were no longer working. The doctor even said clearly that my dad had months, not years, left. At that moment, all hope seemed to vanish. I felt as though I was losing my anchor, like everything in my life was no longer stable. My dad's condition deteriorated quickly. He began to forget the simplest things, like the name of the dog I had gotten for my 21st birthday. One day, he looked at the dog and asked, "Wow, that's a nice dog. Where did you get it?" It was a question that broke my heart. All those memories of him, all the joyful moments, were now fading away in his dimming memory. While I faced this painful loss, my husband has been there beside me the entire time. He's not just my partner, he's my rock. He's been patient and kind, offering comfort when I felt like crying or when I felt hopeless. He's helped me take care of our children and manage the household. He's been my strength, and I am so grateful to have him by my side. He always encouraged me to take time to care for my dad, even suggesting I quit my job to be with him more. After some hesitation, he reassured me that it would be the best decision, not only for my dad, but also because it would save us a small fortune on daycare for our children. Eventually, I made the choice to leave my job and stay home with the family. My husband has supported every decision I've made, and I've never felt more loved and appreciated. With all the tension in my life, I felt like I had to carry everything on my own. My dad was battling cancer. I had quit my job to take care of him and the family, and the kids needed my attention. Yet, beside me, there was always my husband, the one who had stood by me throughout this difficult time. He became the only anchor I had, the one who always encouraged me when I felt exhausted, the one who held me whenever I needed comfort. My husband wasn't just a great partner, he was also an amazing father. He always helped me with the kids, teaching them their lessons, playing with them whenever I didn't have the strength. I could feel the love he had for our family, and that made me feel so lucky. There were nights when I was worn out from worrying about my dad, and he would stay up late to take care of the kids without ever complaining or asking for anything in return. Still, one thing I can never forget is the encouragement he gave me when I was hesitant about leaving my job. Although I loved my job, I knew that to care for my dad fully, I had to spend more time with him. When I worried about finances, he assured me that it was the right decision. He even calculated that we would save a considerable amount by not paying for daycare. He encouraged me, saying that even though we might have to adjust a little, family should always come first. At that moment, I felt how much he truly understood me, and I felt so grateful to have him. All of his words of encouragement were like a reassurance that I wasn't alone in this fight. Especially as the days with my dad grew more difficult, my husband kept checking on me, asking about my mood, my dad's health, and always expressing concern whenever I felt down. Despite all the encouragement, I still felt like it wasn't enough. I knew I was slowly losing my beloved father, but at least I had my family by my side. Every time I saw my husband and the kids laughing and playing, I felt that I was still fortunate. Surely, without his help, I wouldn't have been able to get through this. He always seemed to understand me to the smallest detail, and I felt loved and protected. There were nights when I was tired, and he would gently rub my back, telling me that everything would be okay. I couldn't imagine my life without him. He wasn't just the amazing husband and father I could rely on, but also my close friend, the one who was always by my side in the worst moments. Those days made me realize that without him, everything would have been so much harder. Although I felt I had an amazing husband, I couldn't deny that besides my family, I also had a best friend who was always my emotional support. She had been my friend since we were little, when we only knew how to play and make mischief. Her family and mine always treated each other like relatives. My mom and her mom grew up together, sharing everything, so our friendship was deeper than just being friends. It felt like family. She was the one who understood me the most, always the first person I turned to when I had a hard time. When I faced challenges in life, she was the one I shared everything with. She had been there when I cried for my mom, when I felt lost, and when I just needed a loyal friend who didn't need to say much. We didn't need words, just being together was enough. I never doubted our friendship. She was a crucial part of my life. One day, after hearing that my dad's condition was worsening, I immediately drove to her house. I couldn't hold back my emotions, and she had always been the one I trusted most in moments like this. When I arrived, she didn't say much, just hugged me tightly, giving me the comfort I needed. She quietly sat beside me for hours, listening to everything I had to say about my dad, about the fear of losing the one I loved most. I cried a lot, but she didn't say a word, just let me cry until I felt lighter. We had always been there for each other like this, and I believed this friendship would never change. She had always been a part of my life, not just a friend, but someone close, someone familiar. But then one morning, while I was waking up to take care of my son, something happened that shattered everything I knew about our friendship. I discovered a strange message on my husband's phone. That message, from my best friend, changed everything. It said, "I guess, since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady showing up at my door, you haven't told her about us yet, right?" Everything froze in that moment. My heart seemed to stop, my head was spinning, and I couldn't make sense of it. 4 months. 4 months my husband and my best friend had been deceiving me? The two people I trusted the most had been doing this behind my back. I couldn't accept the truth. All the years of friendship and love I had built now felt like lies, shattered in an instant. Everything I thought was real was just a web of deceit. Everything seemed to collapse in that moment. I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like a bucket of water about to spill over. I just stood there, in the silence, holding my husband's phone, unable to comprehend what I had just read. It felt like I was living in a nightmare, but couldn't wake up. My husband and my best friend, the two people I loved and trusted the most, had betrayed me. I couldn't understand, couldn't make sense of it. How had this happened, and why didn't I notice? He had been the loving, caring husband, just like he always was. She had been my close friend, the one I turned to for comfort. Why had they done this? I couldn't stand still anymore. It felt like a storm was slowly consuming me, but I couldn't put the phone down, couldn't stop reading the messages between them. In those texts, I saw how they had been hiding things from me, the sweet words, the promises of a future I was completely unaware of. It was all a horrific lie. I felt like I had been betrayed right in my own home. I knew I had to confront them. I knew I couldn't live in this deception any longer. But right then, I couldn't do anything. Everything felt too overwhelming to accept. I couldn't even imagine how I was going to talk to my husband, to my best friend, to both of them, the people I had trusted and loved unconditionally. How could I face this truth without completely falling apart? I just stood there in silence, still holding the phone, my heart full of rage and pain. But I also felt something else, something I couldn't ignore, a sense of determination. I couldn't keep living in this betrayal. I couldn't live in this lie. As much as it hurt, I knew I had to face my husband and my friend, I had to hear the truth from them. I looked at the clock, feeling like every second was dragging on for what seemed like an eternity. Each passing minute made me feel more exhausted, but I also realized that I couldn't back down. No matter what came next, I knew I had to face it. I couldn't keep living in this dishonesty. This betrayal had cut me to the core, but I had to find a way to rise above it. The feeling of being betrayed was the most painful thing I had ever experienced, but I also knew that I couldn't let this pain defeat me. No matter what, I had to face the truth and find a way to move on. This betrayal wouldn't take away all my strength, and I would keep going. Not just for myself, but for my children. I stood there, holding the phone, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, but deep down, I knew I couldn't keep living in this lie. I had once thought I knew everything about my husband and my best friend, but now everything had crumbled. The messages, the promises, the moments I had believed to be real were all lies. I couldn't bear it anymore. I knew I had to face the truth, even if it was a confrontation I couldn't even begin to imagine. The thought of confronting my husband and my best friend was incredibly difficult. Every step I took, every passing minute, my mind felt chaotic. I reflected on everything I had done for my family, all the efforts I had made to care for my father, raise our children, and maintain our family. Why had they done this? Why betray me when I had been trying so hard to keep everything together? As I walked into the living room, where my husband was sitting, I felt my heart tighten. He looked at me, confused, unaware that I had already discovered the truth. I couldn't stand the silence anymore. I placed the phone on the table and started speaking. My voice was shaky, but I tried to control the pain. "We need to talk," I started, locking eyes with him. He looked at me, clearly confused, but I refused to back down. I continued, "I know about the messages, about you and her. Both of you have lied to me. Why did you do this? Why lie to me for 4 months?" My husband sat silently, his eyes filled with regret and fear, but he didn't speak. I waited for an answer, but instead of an explanation, he lowered his head. That's when I realized I didn't need an explanation anymore. Nothing could fix this situation. With all the determination I could muster, I went on, "You didn't just hurt me, you hurt this family. You betrayed me, and so did she. I don't care why it happened because the truth is, they did it, and I can't forgive that." At that moment, I felt a part of me breaking, but another part of me became stronger than ever. I realized that no matter how much it hurt, I couldn't let this betrayal destroy my life. I had invested so much time and effort into building this family, and I wasn't going to let anyone ruin it. I looked at my husband one last time, no longer with love, but with cold detachment. "We can't go back from this," I said, and then I turned away, refusing to cry. For me, determination had become my strength. My best friend would no longer be a part of my life. I would move forward, though it wouldn't be easy. But for my children, for myself, I knew I would make it through.